Eagles fans, we welcome you to the NovaCare Complex on this Veterans Day. We're a peek behind the scenes here as the Eagles get ready for the second half of this 2020 season. Our coverage presented by DraftKings. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with the great Fran Duffy, and we got some football to look forward to, Fran, on Sunday afternoon at MetLife Stadium. The Eagles and the New York Giants, another NFC East matchup. Two teams very familiar with each other. Fran, first of all, welcome back from the bye week. Trust that you had a very nice, relaxing bye week.
I did. Got some time away, which was good. Hope you had the same.
I certainly did, and we are now ready for the second half of the season. Eagles in first place, of course, in the NFC East, 3-4-1 record. A bit deceiving. Winners of 2 straight games, 3-2 in their last 5 games, largely due to that man right there, Brandon Graham, having an all-pro season with 7 quarterback sacks. And a reminder, I've said this many times here, he's never had more than 9.5 sacks in a season, never made it to the Pro Bowl. Now, there won't be a Pro Bowl, but I imagine they'll name a Pro Bowl team.
They will.
And we are certainly rooting for double nickels to get there because Brandon Graham, I think, Fran, I would say this, defensive MVP without a doubt through 8 games.
Without question, with what he's done. I mean, you look at not even just the production, but when some of that production has come. You look at some of the crucial plays that he has made. The sack fumble against the Giants late in the game to help secure that victory. The sack fumble in the red zone against Dallas to prevent them from going in and scoring a touchdown early in that game really helped keep momentum on the Eagles side. So I think we've seen BG come up with some timely plays here for this Eagles defense.
So we are pulling back the curtain on this very rainy Wednesday in South Philadelphia. The Eagles indoors here at the NovaCare Complex. And as you see, head coach Doug Peterson all masked up. This team, of course, getting the news in the last couple of weeks. A player testing positive for COVID-19, safety Marcus Epps, as well as a member of the coaching staff. And Coach Doug said earlier this morning that it really does not affect the day-to-day operation. The Eagles holding a team meeting virtually this morning. Position meetings later today will be held virtually. The players will leave after practice. And we are keeping our eyes, Fran, on who is back at practice. Isaac Seumalo, left guard. The 21-day window open for him, so we expect to see him on the field. In what capacity, we don't know. And there we go. Alshon Jeffrey, do the dance, show some energy. He's got the left thumb bandaged up there, but Alshon Jeffrey, I mean, we're holding out hope that he gets back into the lineup. And then if he does, Fran, let's have some fun here. What role does he play? He's not taking Travis Fulgham spots. He's not taking reps from Jalen Reagor. Do you move one of them in the slot and put Jeffrey on the outside? Do you work Jeffrey in slowly? Fran, you be the head coach.
I think that you kind of work him in a little bit slow, as you mentioned. And the other thing, too, that gives them a little bit more flexibility at the receiver position this week, still no Zach Ertz, right? He still has at least one more game that he has to sit out due to injury reserve. So with that in mind, it's not like this is a typical Eagles offense where you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets with only 2 receivers on the field. So, if you look at Travis Fulgham, you look at Jalen Reagor, you assume you want those 2 young guys to get the lion's share of reps at the receiver spot. Now, okay, do you see more Alshon Jeffrey taking some of Greg Ward's reps? Obviously, it's going to kind of rotate in there. You've got a lot of other young guys, John Hightower for sure. You want to be able to get all these guys the football, but I'll be interested to see what the rotation looks like if Alshon's back in the lineup.
Yeah, and in the big picture, look, the Eagles made it a point, as we take a look at TJ Edwards, who coming off that huge game against the Dallas Cowboys, the Eagles wanted to get younger, okay? In the offseason, that was one of the priorities here, and we're seeing that players like Edwards living up to that billing. The wide receiver core, Fran, has been a bit seamless here, surprisingly seamless. You find somebody like Travis Fulgham. You get some production from Jalen Reagor. You build confidence with John Hightower. Deshaun Jackson on IR. Alshon Jeffrey hasn't played. It's a nice problem to have as the roster turns over that Alshon Jeffrey is not counted on to come in and transform the wide receiver position. The Eagles need Alshon, to be part of the group at wide receiver, not to be the focal point.
Yeah, there's no reason to force the issue if he's not 100% ready to be thrust into that kind of role, because this guy number 82, has done a fine job. Is he going to make mistakes every week? Yeah. You're going to get that from rookies no matter what position you play. The best part about what we've seen from John Hightower, outside of that Week 1 game against the Washington football team, he's been able to come back and bounce back from that adversity and make some plays down the field. He might have a bad drop early and then come back and get a 50-plus yard catch down the field later, and that's been one of the good things to see from Hightower. But anytime you're playing young players, that's the name of the game. You're going to see it.
Yeah, and as Doug Peterson said this morning when asked about Hightower and the relative lack of efficiency throwing the football, taking shot plays to Hightower from Carson, he's going to keep taking them. Hightower's getting open. And look, it hasn't worked some here in the first half of the season, but you don't stop in the second half of this 2020 regular season. And by the way, Eagles fans, if you haven't tuned in to our library of podcasts, please do so. I've got 2 of them going on. Fran's got 2 of them going on. Mine are the Eagles Insider podcast. It comes out 3 times a week, and we get a lot of behind-the-scenes interviews with players, exclusive stuff like that, as well as the Eagles Update, which is your short 2 to 3 minute daily update on what's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. Fran, yours just keep marching on.
We just keep going on. We have the obviously the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, where we are diving into the X's and O's, the analysis of each Eagles game, the opponent, what goes into each matchup, everything that you need to worry about from that standpoint going into each game. As we see Miles Sanders working there in the background, number 26. Good to see him back on the practice field. And then the Journey to the Draft podcast, where we are always talking about the next crop of future Eagles. And all these guys that are here on the field, I remember talking about John Hightower last fall. I remember talking about Miles Sanders 2 falls ago. So it's always great seeing these guys that we talk about all season long then turn into future Eagles.
All right, so let's take a recount here. We have seen Miles Sanders on the field.
Yep.
We've seen Alshon Jeffrey. We've seen Isaac Seumalo. We are looking for Lane Johnson. I believe he is out there.
Yep.
So, look, if you can get those players back, what a difference it makes. I would imagine Malik Jackson will be on the field as well. It really will help the Eagles coming off this bye week, Fran, to come in relatively healthy against a Giants team that has played really good football here. A tough loss to the Cowboys several weeks ago. A game against the Eagles where they had the Eagles beaten with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Lost that one. Tough one against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. And then the Giants pick up their second win of the season against the Washington football team. The running game continues to work without Saquon Barkley. 4 straight games over 100 yards. Daniel Jones has a good group of wide receivers. And the defensive line keys a defense, Fran, that's pretty darn good. Physical, tough to run against. And as the Eagles found out, difficult to build a rhythm against.
Second in the league right now in turnovers.
And there's Lane.
Yeah, there's Lane Johnson. So we get a chance to see number 65.
I actually have a knee brace just like that.
Do you?
Yeah, it's awful.
On the left knee or the right knee?
It's on the right knee. I'm sure he moves a lot better than I do. But it's great to see Lane out there. And clearly the knee, along with the ankle, the issues with him. I'm sorry, continue on about the Giants.
Yeah, but no, I was just saying, this is a team, this is a defense that's playing really hard. They're forcing a lot of turnovers. Like I said, second in the league right now in turnovers forced. So this is a group that does a lot of different things in the secondary. We just talked about that on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, all the different things they're doing to mess with opposing quarterbacks. It's going to be a big test for not just Carson Wentz, but the receiving core as well, because they have got to be able to figure out how to uncover against all these different coverages that New York's going to deploy.
And a defense that takes the football away, and a quarterback who through the first 8 games has given the ball away at an alarming rate. Something has to give here. And Carson, again, met the media today, said the same thing. I'm going to be aggressive. I've got to be smarter. I've got to be better. He said that for many weeks. We know that. We love him. Got to see the turnovers, the giveaways slow, Fran.
Yeah, I think the big thing, and he talked about it today, was just understanding when to just eat the play. Just say, hey, you know what? It's first down. Let's live to play to second down. And I think half of his turnovers, when you look at the interceptions and the fumbles so far, have come on first down. He's just got to know, hey, you know what? This one didn't work. I can throw this one away. I can run forward for a yard or two. Don't have to go for the big play every single time.
So Alshon Jeffrey actually has both of his. That's just normal tape on his wrists. I didn't realize that. I thought it was just his left wrist, but he looks good to go. Jason Peters, I'm sure, appreciated very much that week off. Now, let's think about, Fran, the offensive line and how it could look. With Peters at left tackle, we would assume. We perhaps expect Isaac to return to the left guard position if he gets cleared this week.
Right.
Jason Kelce at center. And then you've got a choice at right guard, whether it's Matt Pryor or Nate Herbig. and then Lane Johnson at right tackle. Jordan Mailata is your swing tackle. Either Herbig or Pryor is your swing guard. It's almost feeling normal.
Starting to come together a little
bit. We don't have. There's no Brandon Brooks.
Yep.
Andre Dillard, they're both gone. Jack Driscoll still on the mend, but it's kind of getting back to normal.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. You look back to, we're talking about the guys that are coming back this week, but even getting back in the previous game, Jalen Reagor, Dallas Goedert, Jason Peters, you're starting to get some of those reinforcements back into the lineup and have this offense start to just take shape of what we expected coming into the season. That's the thing to remember. When these two teams, when the Eagles and Giants met in Week 7, the Eagles were as shorthanded as they've been all year in that game on a short week after the game against Baltimore. So getting all these guys back in the lineup, it's going to be a different kind of game here on Sunday afternoon than what we saw back in Week 7.
And it was such a weird game a few weeks ago, Fran. The early drive, the opening drive looked great rhythm, and then the offense just went until late in the fourth quarter. Move the football at times. 3 of 7 in the red zone until the late kneel down. Clearly an area where the Eagles must improve. The offense 11th in the league in red zone efficiency. The defense 25th in the league in red zone efficiency. And there's Jalen Reagor, number 1 draft pick, working on the punt return game. And I'd actually like to see Jalen work into that. Love Greg Ward, very reliable, but the big returns just haven't been there. I wonder if we can see Reagor translate what he did in college so well at TCU into the NFL very quickly.
One of the most dynamic playmakers, with the ball in his hands when he was at TCU. So, anytime you can get him the football in space, that's a recipe for success typically throughout the course of his career. You talked about the red zone efficiency and just kind of going back. I think the big thing that Eagles fans need to know about what happens during the bye week is that every coach is kind of given a task. Hey, I'm gonna be in charge of looking at this aspect of situational football. I might look and watch all of our third downs, red zone, 2-minute drill, opening script. You talk about watching the turnovers, right? All those little aspects. You're gonna watch all of those plays back, all those little situations, and you're gonna try and point to what are the things we do well, what are the things we don't do well, what are the things we need to incorporate more into, what are the things we need to scrap. Right? Because you don't have time to necessarily do that every single week as you're preparing for the next game. That's your time to hit the reset button. So I'm excited to see what this offense looks like here coming into the second half.
We are so glad to have you with us. We're so glad to be back. Our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2020 regular season presented by DraftKings. We're here at the NovaCare Complex, Eagles indoors today. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy, and we're getting you a little close to the action here. I mean, really, literally as close to the action as you can get as Eagles go through some special teams work here. As we prepare for Sunday's game at MetLife Stadium, where the Eagles are 8-2, I believe. This series has been heavily, as I knock on wood here, tilted in this favor of the Eagles. 8 straight wins, tough games, crazy games. We all know that's coming down the pike. Maybe the most underrated performer of the first half of the season right there, Cameron Johnston.
Sure. Among
the best punters in gross and net yards in the NFL. But, Fran, as we know, in the East, the winter is cruel to punters.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's a good point. To me, you talk about the importance of this game. You talk about the rivalry. Look, this Giants team is playing well. They nearly beat Tampa a couple weeks ago. They beat Washington. This is a team that's looking to try and make the rise up in the East. So the Eagles, especially going into this final stretch run, we know that the win-loss column has not been favorable to the NFC East, right? So all these division games are going to be of uber importance for everybody. All 4 teams, you have to stack up as many W's as possible in the division. The Eagles have 2 right now. It's imperative that they continue to try to stack more.
I got to tell you, so as good as the Giants have played, as well as they played, they certainly have been improved under first-year head coach Joe Judge. My argument is that the NFC is just wide open.
It is.
There's nothing great in the NFC. The Saints, without that home field advantage, beatable. Tampa Bay has fallen down. Green Bay, good football team. Out west, Seattle, the defense has been porous. So if the Eagles can get something going for 60 minutes, which we have not seen. I really thought that Dallas game would say, hey, the Eagles we're going into bye week. We're going to show the entire country what we got here, agonizing victory for the Eagles. So I want to see 60 minutes from here on. I want to see what this team's all about. I don't feel like I know what the Eagles are all about, unless they're just about inconsistency,
right?
Which I don't think.
I think it's going to be, I mean, just coming out of the bye, I think it's, like I said earlier, it's kind of an opportunity to hit the reset button and say, okay, what are we as a football team? What do we do well? What are the things that we need to really kind of push forward going into the final 8 games? I'm really excited to see what this team looks like, especially the other thing is going in their favor as we see Jack Driscoll there on the left side. That's good.
Nice to see.
I think you start to see, all right, with all the pieces back, what will this group look like? I'm really excited to see what that looks like here Sunday afternoon.
Honestly, I'm excited to see Jack Driscoll. I didn't know he was going to be ready to go quite this early, and that is excellent news. And that's somebody that nobody talks about, but as we've seen throughout the NFL, depth along the offensive line, so critical to success. Teams are getting ravaged by injury along the O-line. And while the wide receivers get all the headlines and the running backs get all the girls and the quarterbacks get all the money, it's all about the O-line in the NFL.
The O-line play around the league has really, because of the attrition, you look at the teams that have really struggled to stay healthy in the trenches. It's been rough sledding. And the Eagles, despite the fact that they've had so many injuries, and there's no question that has an impact on this team, the fact that they've still been able to operate at the rate that they have is impressive.
So for all you young wide receivers out there, what Alshon is doing there, move your hands, and then catch the football. Now, are we seeing him in any sort of team drills today? That will be the key. So stay tuned for the Eagles injury report later in the day as the Eagles will detail just how much number 17 took part in practice today. My sense, Fran, is that if it's not a full workout, then he's still very much a question mark for Sunday.
Yep. So if we see him as limited on the report, then we'll see. Basically, this is what he did, right? He worked off to the side. He did individual drills. If he says a full participant, that means we obviously we won't see it here on this broadcast, but that means he took part in team drills, which is important.
And while we'd love to bring you every single second of this practice, we know that would give the Giants a huge advantage because, of course, they would tune in as well. And why wouldn't they, Fran? Who wouldn't want to listen to us?
I mean, that's the question I asked myself in the bye week. Was we need to hear more.
Have you asked your wife that question?
I know the answer. I don't need to ask that question.
Reminder: this bubble here is 60 yards in length. We are in the city limits of Philadelphia, so I remember Chip Kelly coming to Philly and going, "What is this?" At the University of Oregon, they have hundreds of acres to work with. In South Philly, ain't quite the same, but our cheesesteaks are a lot better.
No, that's right.
There we go. Well, we trust you. We love you, and that's what it takes to win a Super Bowl. We thank you for joining us here, our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2020 season presented by DraftKings. Eagles insider Dave Spadaro along with Fran Duffy. Thanks so much for joining us, and make sure you tune in on Sunday, our kickoff show presented by Exalta at 12:15. Here from the NovaCare Complex and live coverage of the Eagles pregame, and then our postgame show presented by Rico immediately after the Eagles and Giants play. Thanks, everyone. Have yourselves a great Eagles day, and fly, Eagles, fly.